It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Friday, August 4th, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that loves a good mock draft.
I mean, it depends.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a potential mock expansion draft from a listener question. We're going to talk Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson and a whole lot more, all on today's show.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there. Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on the app formerly known as Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. We as a show are on Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky at Locked On Flyers as well. You can subscribe or follow us for free over on YouTube. We're on the SiriusXM app. Anywhere you listen to podcasts, subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, we have some assurances from Keith Jones that Sean Couturier and Cam Atkinson will be on the ice for training camp, which is good news. Got to take it with a little grain of salt.
Yeah, he was on the ice last year.
But Cam Atkinson did play this summer in the Cap City Summer League, which is a no-checking league similar to the Beauty League that we talked about on the show. And so he does have some in-game action under his belt at the moment.
Still hasn't faced any contact in 2 years, so I still need to see more.
I know. There are going to be a lot of eyes on those two, looking at every little detail when they hit the ice for training camp. He also basically said that Ryan Ellis is done and expressed some sympathy for him as far as dealing with injury at the end of his career. And it really is unfortunate, but I think that the Flyers are under the assumption, whether Ryan Ellis is or not, the Flyers are under the assumption that he's never playing again.
Yeah, he's not playing again. I think we all knew it. It's good to hear it in a sense that it sort of closes the book on it. I do feel bad for Ryan Ellis, for sure. I don't want to get into the whole history of it.
Yeah.
It's a bad history.
Yeah. We also heard a little bit of an update on what's going on with Hockey Canada, in that it appears that even though we don't have official word yet, that there are going to be 5 suspensions of current NHL players. That's a lot.
It is. Well, if you remember, whatever show it was on, I talked about there was like 8, but the only thing is that there are only 5 NHLers of the 8. And so, like, as things, I was looking at it, going back, trying to figure it out. It was a little cryptic, but now it's getting a little clearer with these reports, and it makes sense. So, because if you weren't under an NHL contract, what could they really do to you? So, but these 5, they're going to get suspensions, and I think they're going to be lengthy.
Yeah, I think so too. And I also think that it's really, I mean, there must be a reason for it behind the scenes, whether it's legal, whether it's, from communications planning, but to have delayed this announcement this long when teams are now trying to get ready for the upcoming season. And this is not to minimize like the awfulness of what happened. And I 100% agree that, people who are involved should be suspended.
Yes.
I'm not going to argue that, but the timing of when this announcement or this report is going to be released, like at this point, it feels like they've been really dragging it out unnecessarily.
It does. The only thing I could say that maybe would give you reason to say, okay, I get that, is maybe there was pushback from the lawyers and or agents of some of these players, and they were sorting that out. So maybe they wanted to kind of make sure it was like not going to be challenged. And maybe in the end, that's what will happen. If there's no challenges after these suspensions are posted, then I'm going to be pretty sure that's what it was.
Yeah, if they want to get any appeals or anything related to that done behind the scenes and not have that happen in public.
Right.
I can sort of see that
That's happening.
But Yeah, but that also seems a little dodgy on its own, like to not
Sure, but I
have
mean, again,
transparency.
in this era where players are worried, about their image and, branding and things like that, I could see it.
Yeah, I guess so. It's very frustrating, obviously, for everybody involved, and I think for survivors, it's also
Oh,
stressful
sure.
to have this drag out
Yeah,
and have
it's the
this
worst
be.
possible thing, really.
Yeah, yeah. So I just hope people find the peace that they need in all of
Yeah,
this,
me too.
and we just get the information that we need sooner rather than later, because again, it does affect the Flyers because Carter Hart was a part of that team. Other Flyers news, they announced some new jersey numbers, some of which we knew about. But I do think it's very interesting when they give official jersey numbers to borderline players because I think that you never know, obviously, if they're going to make the team or maybe they want to reserve that number if the guy gets a call up or whatever. But to have like Ronnie Attard and Ayer Zamula get official numbers, I thought was real interesting.
I mean, they're at a point where there's not that many guys that have sway for numbers anymore. So I think they're just trying to let some of the other guys have their due because they're important to the future of the team because right now the team is sort of lacking star power.
Yeah, I guess so. Of course, Tyson Forster went through that number saga where he was going to switch to 18, and then they
Yeah.
signed Stahl, and so Stahl's taking 18. Poor guy, but at least he gets 71 as his second choice there.
I like 71. 71's a good number.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's always like fun when players pick different numbers that aren't usually used. We also had the World Juniors Showcase continue, and we had mentioned on the previous show that there was going to be an intra-squad game between the two USA white and blue teams. So this was all three of the Flyers prospects in the tournament in one game, and it was 7-3 white at the end of it. Cutter Gauthier had a pretty solid game from all reports, a goal and an assist. He played wing on the top line, and
Why did you
that's
play wing, Rachel?
well because Will Smith played center, who is a better center than him.
Yeah.
And I think that this is kind of a hint about the potential future for him on the Flyers. That he wants to play center. Flyers have talked about him as a potential center, but I think when all is said and done, like it's looking more and more just based on development, that wing might be where he ends up.
Yeah, I felt that all along. We'll see. We'll see how the metamorphosis of his career goes. But like they're going to have to be devoid of centers for John Tortorella to put him at center. Like that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, I think so. They're going to have to keep their minds open to
Yeah,
all of this. The other interesting aspect of this game was the play of Cole Knuble, which I'm so happy for
me
him.
too.
2 goals in the game. He really stood out for the same reasons that he did in the previous game in terms of being tough to play against. He really muscled his way in net front and had a goal there, crashed the net on his other goal. And I think that, for a guy who is borderline to make the World Junior squad, to have a good showing like this is really positive.
Yeah, I mean, again, I wrote about him for Elite Prospects 2 years ago, and I was surprised he didn't get drafted. He, I talked about his work ethic in the article, which is obviously there. And, it's like he's a really talented guy that I think everybody expected a little more from offensively. So I think because he didn't have his best offensive year during his draft year, I think it hurt him. Last year, he had a really good offensive year, and lo and behold, he gets drafted. So I just think it was a matter of that, not like there was any loss of talent or he got any better, honestly.
Yeah, I think so. And Devin Kaplan also got on the board. He hadn't scored in the previous games, but he got an assist on a goal late in the game. He was getting more third line minutes, like we said. Cole Knuble was up on the second line for that squad. And when you have, your top line of the white squad was Will Smith, Cutter Gauthier, and Jimmy Snuggerud. Like those, like your top Team USA guys, right? So for Cole Knuble to get second line minutes, I think also spoke well to him. And then Devin Kaplan was on the blue side of things on the third line. With Oliver Moore was the center of his line. Not too shabby there either.
No, I mean that's pretty damn good. It's an awful lot of talent if that was one U.S. team, which bodes well for the World Juniors, even without Logan Cooley. I mean, Logan Cooley on that team might have guaranteed them a gold medal, but without Logan Cooley, it'll be a little bit of a struggle, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I'm really excited for this upcoming USA squad for World Juniors. I think it should be a lot of fun. A bunch of really, really talented guys, like you said. All right. Well, we are going to do that academic exercise on if there was an expansion draft this summer, who would the Flyers protect? We're going to do that coming up next.
Take your first swing at belting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's 200 you can spend betting on everything from the money line to the over-under to who you think's going to hit the first home run. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get up to $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
On the show on Monday will be a new summer poll question, which we're going to get to your results later in the show. Today, we're going to have our nemesis of the week. It's going to be another great week of off-season content for us, so stay tuned for that. If you recall from Wednesday's show, we did our mailbag segment, and our listener, Tim, at 5 for Fighting Fire on Twitter, wanted to know, using the most recent Seattle rules, if there was an expansion draft this summer, who would the Flyers protect? We thought this was a fantastic question, but it would take like a full segment to get through it because of all the rules and the protection lists and reasoning and all of that. So we're doing that now. Thanks again, Tim, for the great question. And it was a lot of fun as an exercise to think about. So if we recall what the rules were, you can protect 7 forwards, 3 defensemen, and 1 goaltender, or 8 position players and 1 goalie. And there were eligibility requirements. So you have to have had completed an ELC. And then there were rules about having to expose 1 defenseman who's under contract and having had played at least 40 NHL games in the previous season, or played in a combined 70 games over the previous 2 seasons. Rules for the forwards, you had to expose 2 guys. You had to expose a goalie who was under contract or was an RFA. And then this is where some of our conversation will go. All teams must protect any player with a no movement clause in their contract unless the player agrees to waive it. So let's start with the forwards. Now, this is based on who the Flyers have under contract now, and we're going to assume Morgan Frost is under contract. Those are our ground.
Oh, we haven't heard anything, so yeah.
That's true, but for this exercise, we're working on that assumption. Now, Nick Delorier has a no-move clause in his contract.
Fletcher strikes again, man.
I know, so we have to protect him. So given that, we only have 6 more slots for forwards. Now, for me, that's Couturier, Farabee, Cates, Konechny, and Tippett, and Frost.
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer to get, here's what I would do. My little wrinkle for this is I'm dumping Delorier and protecting Allison because, Allison had a decent year last year. Maybe he's over his injury bug, and if he is, I'd much rather have him going down in the future than Nick Delorier. So I'm going to just trade Nick Delorier for a bag of pucks.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the strategy, is to try and trade Nick Delorier so you don't have to protect him.
Right.
But everybody knows that's what you're trying to do. So it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, I don't even care about the
Um,
return. If Anaheim wants him, I'll give him future, consideration.
future considerations,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, I think that is the way to go, because that way you can keep Allison, but it also exposes Lawton and then Paling, Hathaway, and Tanner Lazinski, which the rest of them exposed is fine. It's just like, it's that Delorier no move clause that's a real problem, right?
Right. Yep.
So for the defenseman, Travis Sanheim has a no trade clause in his contract, so you have to protect him. I think you would anyway, uh, just because that's where the numbers are, and the Flyers' blue line isn't exactly stellar right now, so you don't have to protect that as many of them. But yeah, so we do have to have Travis Sanheim on that list. I would say Cam York, you would also protect
Yeah.
on that list. And then I think, just based on who you have, your choice then is protecting Ristolainen or Zamula.
Yeah. This is where you wish you could put Scott Lawton in as a defenseman. Then you say,
Right.
okay. Although now that I'm really looking at this, see, here's the other problem. They could have gone the 8-2 if
Mhm.
it weren't for the next thing that you're going to talk about, which really screws that up. So we can't even do that, because then you could have kept Lawton. But I get it. I'll if another team gets Lawton, so be it. He might eventually get traded down the line anyhow. But for this one, yeah, I mean, you're pretty much in a corner with this. Like, this is
Yeah.
it. There's not much. The only maneuverability you could do, like, I really would like to keep Zamula, but I don't think I can get a good enough trade for Ristolainen, so I can't do it.
Right. I think you just have to protect Ristolainen,
Yeah,
because like, you need an actual NHL
yeah.
defenseman here. And like, the rest of your defensemen are Stahl, Sealer, and Walker, which like, you're not going to protect them,
No,
right?
no.
So yeah, I mean, you could do
Although I
the
think
8-2.
John would knock on the door and say, "Danny, we gotta protect Nick Sealer," and then Danny would have to tell him, "No, it's not happening."
No, I mean, if you did the 8-2 to protect Lawton, then you're just protecting Sanheim and York, and everybody else is up for grabs.
Which is fine. I'm okay with that, because you'll lose Risto's contract then if someone takes him, but nobody's taking him, right? But we're gonna
Right.
talk about something else that's gonna preclude that from happening anyhow.
Right. So the other big wrench in this is that Cal Peterson has a no move clause in his contract. So for the goalie, which there is only one that you can protect, the Flyers have to protect Peterson
Yeah.
in this case, which leaves Carter Hart out there. I
Yeah.
mean, it also leaves Felix Sandstrom out there, but
Nobody's touching him. Somebody would take Carter Hart, even
Mhm.
it's even though it's another just 2 seasons, but they would take him this year and next. They'll take
Yeah.
him.
Yeah. So the only way around this is trading Cal Peterson or getting Peterson to waive it, because you can do that.
He's not gonna waive
And
it.
no, because like, and he just shouldn't have to. They can
Right.
ask him, but if he says no, that's fine, because that's why people negotiate them into their contracts. They want control over their circumstances.
Yeah, and again, I mean, he's not gonna waive it, and nobody's taking him in a trade. You have
Yeah,
to give an incentive for the Flyers to take him in a trade.
I know. That's the thing, is he was a contract dump to begin with for the Flyers. So
Now you have to
there's
hold on to him. It's really cruel.
it is really cruel. That's why I love this question from
Yeah.
Tim, because
I love it and
this
I hate
was
it for that reason.
right. Yeah. And I'm very grateful it's theoretical
Oh, yeah.
because I think this would be a
If it wasn't
very
theoretical,
difficult.
people would be screaming.
I know. I know. And I think that obviously, if there was an expansion draft this summer, there's no way that Danny Bear would take Cal Peterson as part of this deal, even
Right.
as for the Provorov deal, because of knowing they would have to protect him, right?
But if I'm
So
the
I
Flyers, I do kind of have to keep an eye on when the next expansion is. Because when you're loading up on young players like this, there are going to be guys you won't be able to protect in the next one. And yes, folks, there will be another one. The league's not going to stop expanding. So I just don't know when it's going to be.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that they're going to expand before the end of the Gary Bettman era, but we'll see.
Yeah, anything's
Stranger things
possible.
have happened
Yeah,
because I think we have like 3 or 4 years left of Bettman on
yeah.
his current deal, and then he's going to retire ostensibly at that
So he
time.
says.
So he says he'll be 75 when that contract's up. So
So he says.
yeah, we'll see how that goes.
75
But
would be young for a president, right? So
I guess so. Yeah, but so I think that's where we're at here with who we would protect if there was an expansion draft today in the NHL. So once again, thanks Tim for the question. Had a lot of fun trying to put that together. We are going to have more of your feedback coming up next with the results of our listener poll on what the Flyers' priorities should be for this upcoming season coming up next. All right. So this week's poll question asked you to vote on what you think the Flyers' biggest priority should be this upcoming season. And the choices were better defensive play, more scoring, improved special teams, goaltending success, and prospect development. And this was a runaway with 65% of the vote going to prospect development, which is
that's
the right and
huge.
proper choice, I think,
Yeah,
right?
it is, and it's a nice change to see. I don't think we'd have seen this 2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, but I think that people really understand that this is a season where we want the young kids to take big steps forward and we do whatever we can around them to make sure that that happens. We want guys to be able to get opportunities for call-ups. So we want Lehigh Valley and the Flyers to be working in tandem together to really make sure that the development is a cohesive system here,
Yeah,
right? So I think that is a good sign to see from all the votes out there. And of the other options, better defensive play got the top vote with 17%, which I think is really interesting from a John Tortorella perspective,
yeah,
just because I think that was the goal this past season. And so
yeah,
obviously it seems like enough people, yeah, think that the Flyers did not achieve that goal, that they have that as their top priority
yep.
for coming into this season, which would be like a repeat in a lot of ways, right?
Still on the to-do list, as they say.
Yeah. My selection, improved special teams, only got 7%. I just think, man, I
It should
understand
be
the
higher. I get why it's not, but it should be higher.
yeah. And you can never fault people for wanting more scoring
No,
with 11% of the
special
vote.
teams gets frustrating, and people forget the frustration, I guess, that there was last year with the special teams, especially
Yeah,
trying
and
to
I can
write, especially for me trying to write about it. How many different ways
right.
can I write that the power play was just awful?
Oh, it was brutal all last year. So I understand if people voted for prospect development over special teams, but of the other things, I'm like, I feel like at least improved special teams is something that's doable. I
Yes.
don't know with this blue line, the better defensive play is doable, but I guess we'll see. We'll give him a shot. We'll give him a fair shake, right?
Yeah, you have to.
You do. And I think that one of the responses in the comments to this was just yes. And I appreciate that because yes, we do
Improve
need the
everything.
improve everything. Yeah, this is going to be a real fascinating season to see what they focus on as far as on ice play. And with the guys that they've brought in, what do they bring and how does that affect trying to achieve any of these goals? Because I'm sure all of these things are on their list, right? It's just like, what do they hone in on?
Yeah, goaltending success is funny at 1% because I think everybody knows like Hart played really well last year, and he still wasn't what you would call successful. Like, so there's no way a goalie could really be successful this year.
Yeah, I think and there's a lot of question marks, right? We still don't know who the 1B or backup goalie is going to be for
Right.
the team. That'll be determined at camp. The Cal Peterson
Still waiting on
situation.
Fedotov. Still, even though the
Yeah.
August 5th date is fast approaching, where he's going to actually play in a game, not an official game, but still going to play.
It's just, it is so
There's so many
wild.
things out there. There's too much hanging out there right now in the abyss.
Yeah, I think so. But all of this affects like how are they planning for this upcoming season and what
Yeah,
are they going to prioritize? So I think we'll get some clues at training camp. That's for sure. In terms of like what kind of drills are they running? I'm going to very much be watching what the defensemen do in training camp and
me
what they're
too.
trying to look at. I
Yeah,
think that is going to be a real interesting point.
yeah, because they're
And
probably hoping somebody takes a step forward and it makes it look a little better than it does on paper. I'm sure that's the hope.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, we will have another poll question for you on Monday's show. So keep an eye out for that with another separate post over on YouTube for you to put your votes in. And love getting this feedback from y'all. It's some real interesting results for our question so far. So we'd love to see it. Keep it
Yeah, it
coming.
keeps it interesting.
Yeah, love to see your comments on this. Just a fun thing to end the week. This is just for me personally, because once again, I'm obsessed with the idea of a heist movie with Gritty and Bowie from the Seattle Kraken as the co-stars of this heist film. And they keep like teasing me with this by putting out more Gritty and Bowie content on the internet. And the Flyers put another post with both of them together where each of them are holding a plush toy of the other, which is so charming and fun. So, Flyers, Kraken, give me that heist movie. That's all I want
I
out
don't
of
think
this
there's going to
world.
be a heist movie, but I could see the Stuck with You type movie where they're shackled together and they
Oh my
just,
god.
I could see that.
Maybe combine it. Maybe they have to do a
Maybe,
heist while shackled together.
maybe.
Does that sound? All right, that'll do it for today's show. As a reminder, we always want to hear from you. So if you've got questions for us, you can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail. You can contact us on social media at lockedonflyers, or you can comment over on YouTube. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Have a great weekend, everybody.